Must ye always rejoice, and go into my holy places continually, as they that keep a feast? And must ye go with a pipe, as those that rejoice, into the mountain of the Lord, to the God of Israel? And the Lord shall make his glorious voice to be heard, and the wrath of his arm, to make a display with wrath and anger and devouring flame. He shall lighten terribly, and his wrath shall be as water and violent hail. For by the voice of the Lord the Assyrians, the Americans, shall be overcome, even by the stroke wherewith he shall smite them. And it shall happen to him from every side, that they from whom their hope of assistance was, in which he trusted, themselves shall war against him in turn, with drums and with harp. For thou shalt be required before thy time. Has it been prepared for thee also to reign? Nay, God has prepared for thee a deep trench, wood piled, fire, and much wood. The wrath of the Lord shall be as a trench kindled with sulfur. Reference: the Brenton's English Septuagint Holy Bible, the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, and verses 29 through 33. Behold, come with me now on a journey as I take you to a few mysteries of the King James Version of the Holy Bible, the Authorized Edition, that was first published and released to the public in the year 1611, that is canonized of 66 books, from the first that is known as Genesis to the last that has no name. And why is that? Well, the mystery to that is as follows. That begins in the beginning, in the book called Genesis, in chapter 49 and verse 1, and that reads, and I quote, And Jacob called unto his sons, and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. End quote. And now let us travel to the first book of the New Testament, that is known as the book called Matthew, in chapter 24 and verse 3. And that reads, as I quote, And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world? End quote. And that was a question that was asked to the Christ of the Hebrews. Remember, his name was Yeshua, in Hebrew, Yeshua.
See, Jesus, the man that is called, remember his name is Yeshua. Yes. Yeshua was a disciple of John.
The name that you see in your Bible that is spelled in English from left to right, Jesus, is a euphemism that originated from the Greek's Jesus, and then later translated to the Spanish's Jesus, and then after 1630, transformed in the English's Bible as Jesus in English, which again is a euphemism redacted as a substitute for Yahshua. Therefore, in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 4, originally it reads as I quote, "And Yahshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you." End quote. So, with that said, and a reminder of the disciples that are here today, all of the disciples that were there then are here today in the last days. These are the last days, and this is the end of the world. And with that reminder, let no man deceive you. Which means what? Now we will go to the end, the last book. They placed it in the last position of the King James Version Holy Bible, which is no title. Why? Because it is a revelation. It is the revelation. It is the revelation from a revelation, which means what? Well, let's take a look and see. Let's go to the last book and read chapter 1 and verse 1. And that is called Revelation. And verse 1 says, in chapter 1, I quote, "The revelation of Yahshua, the Christ, which God gave unto him to shew unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant Yohanan," that was euphemized as John. Now in verse 1, that's end quote. Now in verse 1, we see he sent and signified it. The he after the semicolon is God. It was God who sent and signified what he gave to his son, Yahshua, by his angel unto his servant, Yohanan. And today, in this generation, well, at least from October 27th, 1935, the spiritual John came out of a womb, and he roamed and walked this planet from Kingsfisher, Oklahoma in 1935, and throughout the years until he found his way and entered into the city and the county that is known as Miami, and that's today is known as Miami-Dade County, in 1979, and he first appeared to many by the spiritual name as Moses Israel, or Moshe in Hebrew.
The leader of Miami's Yahweh Temple is Moses Israel. His followers have recently come under investigation in the murders of 2 defectors from the group. Moses Israel denies the murders are sect-related.
Nevertheless, he had taken on numerous appellations, even at one time as Yahshua, the Messiah, and after that, Yahshua, our Messiah. After that, another appellation as Yahweh, the Messiah. And then another appellation in 1983 as Yahweh ben Yahweh. However, he revealed himself in 1986 as who he is as the angel that came and signified it from God, who's also known as the angel of God, as he revealed himself in a 1986 time interview in the Temple of Love, doing an interview as John the Baptist. Take a look and listen here for yourself a short clip of that interview.
The books that talk about Jesus are not are out of date or
That's prophetic. You see, Jesus, the man that is called, Jesus, remember his name is Yahshua.
yeah.
Yahshua was a disciple of John.
Mm-hmm.
John was the man. John was the prophet. The man called Jesus, when he was baptized, baptized had nothing to do with the water. Again, the scriptures are written figuratively, literally, in metaphors, similes, in prose, and in poetry, and full of allegories. So when you read of the man that was called Jesus being baptized and being put under water, then I would have to teach you what baptized means. You'd have to break down the word baptized in all of its letters. See, every word is scientifically composed of letters that are words within themselves. Every letter is a word. So when you break down the word baptized, you have B, which follows A, and I am A. Alpha. B follows the series of A. And B is also the word BE, which comes into existence as a result of A. So, therefore, John was prophesying about A coming, which is the first in the series. And the second set of the word is APT, meaning apt. Now, to be apt, you have to be, that meant that the man was baptized by John, had to become clever, adroit, sagacious, etc., in the ism of John. That made him an ist. That's why he was called John the Baptist. See, he too he came to be in the knowledge of Yahweh, and he then subsequently became apt in the ism, which is the dogma and the laws of Yahweh. So, since John was the one that was the prophet, then the man that was called Jesus was baptized by him. That made him a student and a disciple of John, not the one. And when he attempted to assume the mantle of the one, he began to teach secrets that were not to be taught until the time of the one to come. He was 2,000 years old. 1900 years early of his coming. And when he began to reveal the knowledge of who Satan was, John 8:44, when he began to reveal the knowledge of the Son.
Now, as you heard with your own ears and seen a vision with your own eyes, the one whom many of my people today of Israel, of Yehuda, are still calling, I quote, Yahweh ben Yahweh, end quote, identified and revealed himself during that interview as, I quote, John the man, John the prophet, also known as John the Baptist, who be apt as, and also he had taken on the first English letter known as A.
You have walked in my light for 12 long, hard, suffering years on my part. And I have suffered your soiled hands and your sore mentality. And I'm not coming back to it. Ever. That's over and done. And it's finished.
And that would be followed by B. This means that this B is known today as the Christ. However, in Revelation chapter 1 and verse 1, the book so-called Revelation, he is now being identified as Yahshua. As verse 2 reads, as I quote, Revelation chapter 1, who bear record of the word of God and of the testimony of Yahshua, the Christ, and of all things that he saw, end quote. Now, that fulfillment first occurred in 1992 when John the prophet, John the Baptist, had a face-to-face interview, a face-to-face conference with whom the world only knew and still know at the time as, I quote, Micah. Micah, end quote. And in the Bible, it's known as the 33rd book of the Bible, right in the middle of the same Bible. The King James Version Holy Bible, the 1611 Authorized Edition, as Micah the Morasite. And during that face-to-face conference, John the Baptist told and commanded Micah to study his name and write a book as a result of the study to see how Micah's name is connected to John the Baptist's name, or should you prefer, Yahweh ben Yahweh. And that was a commandment. Nevertheless, moreover, Micah complied, and by the way, Micah stood in front of John the Baptist during the late months of 1979 in Miami, Florida, in a little suburb known as Brownsville. And that night, the first meeting that they had face-to-face after so many thousands of years, as Micah stood. Micah did not stand in the name Micah. He stood in the name that he carried around incognito for 25 years before he met John the Baptist, or, quote, Moses Israel, end quote, or Ak-Moshe, should you prefer. And that is when Ak-Moshe looked at Micah and told him that night, your name is Micah. Your Hebrew name is Micah. Thereby, in 1992, Micah proceeded to write a book after he studied his name. And the results of that book and the results of the transcript that was sent to John while incarcerated at Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Institution of the Miami-Dade County Jail System, John titled the book, and I quote, I bear witness of the Son, Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh, end quote. And that fulfills Revelation chapter 1 and verse 2, and I quote again, who bear record of the word of God and of the testimony of Yahshua the Christ, and of all things that he saw, end quote. That means that John, of this first chapter of the book called Revelation, is the one who read the book that Micah wrote. He read it, and after he read it, he titled the book, and that will fulfill verse 3 of Revelation chapter 1, and that reads, as I quote, blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand, end quote. Moreover, after John read the book and titled the book, then verse 4 of Revelation was fulfilled. And that reads, as I quote, John, also known in Hebrew as Yohanan, to the 7 churches which are in Asia, grace be unto you, and peace from him which is, and which was, and which is to come, and from the 7 spirits which are before his throne. Verse 5, and from Yahshua the Christ, who is the faithful witness, and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him that loved us, and washed us from our sins in his own blood. And verse 6, and hath made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever, who is now here with a group of amen. End quote. Now, with that said, let us go back up to verse 1. And let me show you the mystery of this, that being that we are now in the last days and the last book that they place in the back for a purpose. What is the purpose? The purpose is for me to come along as the first begotten of the dead that was raised by Yohanan the Baptist, whom Ma'ab dwelt in that vessel from time to time. Ma'ab would descend down from heaven, and he would come inside that vessel and speak to me, as he did, as he bare witness of himself, as God incarnate, self-incarnate. And by doing so, God gave me the revelation. And he gave me a revelation. He gave me a revelation, and he gave me the revelation. So what do you mean? What do I mean by that? Well, you must, in order to answer that question, I must first take you to Revelation. This revelation, the first revelation, as I'm now speaking to my people today in the English idiom, a strange tongue today. Why is that? Because my people are Hebrew. My people from Israel and of Israel, their souls are Hebrew. They spoke Hebrew. They wrote Hebrew from right to left, Hebraic. And they read in Hebrew. They read Hebrew. So it was promised, where it's now read, as a supplement in the New Testament, the first book called Corinthians, the 1 Corinthians in chapter 14 and verse 21 that's coming from the book called Isaiah in the Old Testament, and as the first king of Israel, the only king of Israel. As I quote in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 21, I quote, it reads, in the law it is written, with men of other tongues and other lips will I speak unto this people, and yet for all that will they not hear me, saith the Lord. I repeat, verse 21, 1 Corinthians 14, in the law it is written, with men of other tongues and other lips will I speak unto this people, and yet for all that will they not hear me, saith the Lord, that is now speaking to you in another tongue, with other lips, English. Verse 22, wherefore tongues are for a sign. Tongues are for a sign, not to them that believe, but to them that believe not. So are you one that believe, or are you one, or is you one that believe not? But prophesying serveth not for them that believeth not, but for them which believe. Verse 23, if therefore the whole nation be come together into one place, the whole congregation, and all speak with tongues of different languages, of different nations, and there come in those that are unlearned of these other nations' tongues and languages, or unbelievers, especially Hebrew today, and English. Well, will they not say that ye are mad? But if all prophecy, there come in one that believeth not, or one unlearned, as it says in Isaiah chapter 29 and verses 10 and 11 and 12. He is convinced of all. He is judged of all. Verse 25. And thus are the secrets of his heart made manifest. And so falling down on his face, he will worship God and report that God is in you of a truth. So in verse 26 there's a question that I have, which is, how is it then, brethren, when ye come together, every one of you hath a psalm, hath a doctrine, hath a tongue, hath a revelation, hath an interpretation? Let all things be done unto edifying. Verse 25 again. And thus are the secrets of his heart made manifest. I'm now revealing secrets of my heart. And so falling down, I will not on my face, but I will worship my God and report that God is in you of a truth right now. He's in you, not physically in your body, but he's in you right now, in you, in your midst right now. As verse 27, if any man speak in an unknown tongue, is this tongue unknown to you? Are you able to comprehend or understand what I'm saying right now? Or if you are speaking English Creole, which you are, in order to speak English, you must be from England. But Judah today is speaking English Creole, so because you speak English Creole, if I say to you, close the door, you have no problems with me telling you to close the door. You will go right over and close the door. And if I say get off the floor, as one falls and worship on the floor, as it said in verse 25, falling down on his face on the floor, he will worship God. You have no problems with falling down on the floor after you close the door, and go after that you get up and go to the bathroom. Now, is that strange or not? Is that a strange unknown tongue? As you go way over there, English Creole, not realizing that doe is a female deer, and Flo is a nickname for Florence, and bathroom is no such thing as a bathroom unless you go to the bathroom. And what is a whale over there? Is it a whale in the air? Or is it way over there? That's a strange tongue, would you not agree? See, if any man speak in an unknown tongue, in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 27, let it be by two, or at the most by three, and that by course, and let one interpret. But, in verse 28, if there be no interpreter, let him keep silence in the nation, in the congregation, and let him speak to himself and to God. Let the prophet speak two or three, and let the other judge. Now, you be the judge of what I'm about to reveal to you in a strange tongue. I'm not going to ask you to close the door, or get off the floor, or go to the bathroom, or go way over there and wait for me. I'm going to speak to you in a strange tongue. All you Hebrew Israelites. All you Hebrew Israelites in a strange tongue. So, espérate un minuto, por favor, siéntase. ¿Tú vas a la casa o escuela? Ven aquí. Escuchen. repita. Ven aquí, siéntese. Por favor. Tú a la casa, come tú a la casa. Ven acá a la casa, o para escuela. Para ayúdame, ayúdame. Okay, perfecto. Now, let's begin. First noticed in 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 26, it reveals a revelation. A revelation. And this a revelation is not the same as the revelation of the first chapter and first verse of the last book of the Bible that they placed in the back. This revelation that is in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 26, it comes from the Greek word, a Greek word. And this Greek word is known as apocalypsis. Apocalypsis. And this Greek word apocalypsis, it means laying bare, making naked. Laying bare, making naked, as well as a disclosure of truth, instruction concerning things before unknown, also used of events by which things or states or persons hitherto withdrawn from view are made visible to all. And that can be found in your Strong's Concordance under G602. G602. That means that in my previous videos I posted on YouTube a few days ago, I revealed how we are naked now as celestial beings from far beyond this planet, that we are now naked. I made a revelation, and I gave a revelation to this planet of making naked, laying bare, that we are now naked in human vessels. This is a revelation. However, the etymology of this Greek word comes from the Greek word apocalypto. And that means, it means to uncover and to lay open what has been veiled or covered up, disclose, to make known, make manifest. This is revelation. I'm giving you revelation. I'm giving it to you in English that the Greeks hid in Greek. Apo, of separation. In Greek, apo, of separation. On the Greek's reference, G575, 575 in your concordance. Of separation, of local separation. Of separation of a part from the whole. I am now separating part of us who are special beings here on this planet from the whole of the tribe that was taken captive and brought to bondage to this land that's known as the United States of America today, from the west shores of Africa, just as promised in Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verses 41 through 68. Of any kind of separation of one thing from another, by which the union or fellowship of the two is destroyed. Under Strong's, again, G575 of the Strong's Concordance. This comes from Revelation. A revelation. That's the a revelation of 1 Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 26. However, I am going to reveal the revelation. What do I mean by that? The revelation of Yahshua the Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant Yohanan, according to what they call the book Revelation, the book called Revelation, chapter 1, verse 1. Now, that revelation is the same. hidden under Greek's reference G602. G602. So what does that mean? Look at this verse again as I read it one more again for you, one more time for you, to get the comprehension of what is being revealed and what was hidden in this verse. Again, I quote Revelation chapter 1, verse 1. The revelation of Yahshua the Christ. Remember, the name you see here is euphemism for Yahshua, just as you heard in the video that John revealed in 1986.
That's prophetic. You see, Jesus, the man that is called, Jesus, remember his name is Yahshua.
Yeah.
Yahshua was a disciple of John. John was the man.
Which God gave unto him to shew unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant Yohanan, John. Now, that means what? Look at this verse very closely again. Now, can you see it? No. You cannot see it. Why? Because there's a veil over your mind, a veil over your heart, and that veil cannot be taken away until I take it away at my coming. And now I'm here. I am back. I am this Christ of Revelation. And how can I say so? Because look at the verse. The verse is telling you that this is the revelation of the Christ. That means every word that I am speaking to you in this video is the revelation of me, which my Ab, that you know as God, gave unto me, to shew today unto my servants that are here with me today are things which must shortly come to pass. And he did so. He sent this revelation with John. It was signified as John signed my book and signified my book. I bear witness of the Son, the Christ, Yod-Heh-Wav-Heh. He sent John to signify it, and he did, which is also the angel of God, Ma'ab. And once he signified my book, that was the revelation of who I am today. Don't misunderstand this book. This book is not Revelations. You do not see an S at the end of Revelation. This is the revelation of the Christ. And that means that, now I read 6 verses of this first chapter. I read 6 verses. That means that with the 6 verses, there are 398 more verses to go. There are 404 verses in this book. In total, that was segmented. 404. I read 6. That means that there are 398 more verses to read that you cannot read because you do not understand them. They are all sealed. They were given to me. No one can read Revelation except the one to whom it was given to, especially to loose the seals. You don't even know how many seals there are. For example, there are 7 seals revealed in Revelation chapter 5 and verse 1. However, in verse 2, it doesn't list how many seals because they are hidden in chapter 6. And there are more seals than that in chapter 7 that were already sealed that you think you know. Why are you wearing white?
See, all of you been wearing white because I wore it.
Those who are listening and watching this video right now, either listening and or watching, if you can see, then you're watching. If you can see and hear, then you're watching and listening to this video. But if you cannot see and you can hear, then you can hear this video. You can hear my voice. You can hear my voice as it was promised that you would hear my voice if you are dead it was promised that the dead should hear my voice, and once you hear my voice, you shall rise. If you cannot see, you can hear, and you shall rise. But if you cannot hear and you can see, then you can look, and you can come and see. As I said so in Revelation chapter 6 and verses 1 to 5. Come and see. You can read the closed caption, put it on CC so you can read the closed caption if you cannot hear it. So you can know that there are 404 verses in this book that they call Revelation. This book has no name. How can they name it? And it wasn't given to them. They found the scrolls.
This cave was discovered in 1952 here at Qumran.
One of those recurring topics is the reason I am addressing you this evening. I would like to submit to our nation my personal testimony of one document related to one of these ongoing topics, which I saw while in office serving on the State Federal Relations and Veterans Affairs Committee. The document I saw was an official brief to President Eisenhower. To the best of my memory, this brief was pervaded with a sense of hope, and it informed President Eisenhower of the continued presence of extraterrestrial beings here in the United States of America. The brief seemed to indicate that a meeting between the President and some of these visitors could be arranged as appropriate if desired. Because of his optimism in his farewell address in 1961, I personally believe that Eisenhower did indeed meet with these extraterrestrial off-world astronauts. I hope my personal testimony will aid the nation in its quest for continued enlightenment.
This cave actually produced thousands of fragments. The first Bedouins discovered this in 1952, discovered about 13,000 pieces and fragments, and then archaeologists later came back and discovered another 1,000. And they've actually put together like 530 scrolls from these pieces and fragments that they've discovered in this cave. This is the famous picture, the famous cave. Although it's not Cave 1, discovered in 1947. This is one of the 13 caves that have been discovered since, and this has actually produced some of the great pieces and fragments and scrolls.
And they were able to translate the scrolls into whatever language, remember, the tongue that they speak today, whatever idiom that there is. That's all they can do. Transliterate the Hebrew scrolls into what you're reading today in English, in Greek, in German, Espanol, in French. In every idiom on this planet, they have a copy of this book. It is not Revelation. They could not name the book. Why? Well, that's answered in Revelation chapter 5, and chapter 5 of this book, verses 1 through 5. How could they name it? No one can loose the seals or even look at it, which is a supplement from Isaiah chapter 29. And verses 10, 11, and 12. I repeat, this book is not the revelations of any revelations. This is only the revelation of the Christ, which God gave to me. And I'm today showing my servants things which must shortly come to pass. So to all of you, and ye, who think that you are, who thought and think, and continues to think that you are one that were chosen as 144,000? Nowhere in this book will you find or read 144,000 that were sealed. So how is it that this book that was given to me all of a sudden can get to the hands of theologians from history, thousands of years of history, decades of theologians today, even those who read the book, those who are dressed in white and think they can read the book, clergies, popes, theologians of Europe, of Rome, of Greece, the Vatican. How is it that you can put yourself in a position to be one of the 144,000 that were sealed, and that is not found written in this book, even printed? It wasn't written in the scrolls, and neither is it found printed in this book. Would you show it to me? Well, before you do, come with me for a moment to Revelation, to the 14th chapter. Since you're familiar with Revelation, we'll call it that. But let's go to the 14th chapter. And let's take a look for a moment at verse 1 very quickly. The 14th chapter of the same book of subject that was given to me. And let's take a look at verse 1. And I'm going to quote that in English that reads, I quote, "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads," end quote. I'm going to read that again for the sake of those who may not be paying attention. I know you can rewind, you can fast forward, you can pause, but I'm going to read that for my sake of the voice. That way you have no excuse. Again, I repeat, chapter 14, verse 1. "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads," end quote. Now tell me, did you see 144,000? Or did you see the conjunction "and" that is followed by Zion and a comma twice? That again, after the comma of Zion, that's "and with him 140," and after that, "and 4,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads." Now, if you see that, then you should have also seen that it had already happened. It already happened. It happened, and once it happened, then the Father gave it to the Son to show it to the servants these things today. You cannot see the word "looked." Don't you know looked is a past tense of look? Looked is L-O-O-K-E-D. L-O-O-K-E-D from left to right. Looked. That means looked is the past tense of look, opposed to the present tense of what you're doing now as looking. You're looking as someone looked that you can no longer look. You can no longer look. So what are you looking forward to? You think you're one of the 144,000, yet that's not written in this verse or printed? Someone already looked, who was John. And after John looked, he saw a lamb already stood on the Mount Zion, which is Mount Sinai or Mount Zion, which they have in Greek. They put the S opposed to the Z. A lamb already stood on Mount Zion, and as he stood, with him 140. 140 what? And 4,000 of what? In order to find that out, you must go to the book called Esther and read chapter 8. And you must also go to the book called Joshua and read chapter 8. As they stood after a war, particular conquering of a city of the Ai. See, you don't know what AI is. You think it's artificial intelligence, and that's what has prompted into your mind to believe that you are one of the 144,000 because you are AI. You are living in a world of AI, which you know today as artificial intelligence. Oh, yes, you is. You're living in AI. You don't know what AI is. The only thing you know of AI is artificial intelligence, and yet you don't know it's a city of ruin, yet you are ruining yourself. You are ruining your mind of believing that you're one of the 144,000. You don't realize that Joshua chapter 8 already stood and conquered AI. Look at Joshua chapter 8. You were just in a heap of ruins as an AI. Look at Joshua chapter 8. Read it. I'll even start you out with verse 1. That reads, I quote, "And the Lord said unto Joshua," Joshua, that's the same Joshua that they put in the New Testament, all throughout the New Testament, beginning with Matthew, and that you see in verse 1 of Revelation chapter 1, that's the same Joshua that the Lord said unto him, the same one, the same God, the same Lord, the same Joshua, as he said, "Fear not, neither be thou dismayed." See the thou, that's T-H-O-U. T-H-O-U. The only thing missing from there is the S-A-N-D, as it was promised that he promised Abraham, "I'll make your seed as the sands of the sea, thou seed as the sand of the sea." It's in the first book. That's the thou, T-H-O-U, dismayed. "Take all the people of war with thee, and arise, go up to Ai." That's Ai. And in some places in the interpretation, you'll see a double I. That will explain the mystery on why I use double I sometime in my typing. AI, see, you think it's artificial intelligence. See, I have given unto thy hand the king of Ai and his people and his city and his land. And after that victory, you read the rest of this chapter on your own, you'll find out that there were some that were with Joshua as they stood, even 1,000. This AI comes from the Hebrew, two Hebrew characters known from right to left as Ayin Yod, Ayin Yod, and it means heap of ruins. Heap of ruins that you can find your Strong Concordance under H5857. 5857 already stood, already gave them to me. And you can find that there were 3,000 men in verse 3 of Joshua chapter 7. In fact, in verse 3 of Joshua chapter 8, you can find another 30,000 mighty men. And these were all men of the tribes of Israel. And you can see that in this verse, in this chapter, these men that were Joshua were of Israel. All 12 tribes were with him at that time. Even 5,000 men in verse 12. And that's a particular thousand and thousand of thou sand. So it makes you think that you're one of the 144,000 is not printed in the Bible, not the King James Version. Men have come along throughout the centuries and they changed it, they redacted it. And in some Bibles, you'll find 144,000 because that's what they want you to believe, as if the book was given to them. And it was not. You're building your hopes up as a result of AI, artificial intelligence, i.e., a heap of ruins. Are you disappointed? You don't have to be. All you have to do is submit yourself and bow yourself and humble yourself to your Maker. But you're not going to do that. Why? Because you're stiff-hearted, rebellious. You're hard-hardened. Your heart is hardened. You're not going to do it. Not until you ask the mountains and the rocks to fall on you. In Revelation chapter 6 and verse 16, that day is coming. It's coming rapidly. You believe that when you see Revelation chapter 7, because you were white, you think because you were white, you're one of the 144,000, that you see that in Revelation chapter 7, or chapter 7 of this book. And you don't even realize that when you look at Revelation or this book, chapter 7 of this book, and verse 4, as I quote, "And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 140, 140, and 4,000. Here we are again, the same and. I repeat, verse 4, chapter 7. "And I heard the number of them which were sealed." They were already sealed. The same amount, the same sealed in Joshua chapter 8. "And there were sealed 140 and 4,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel." See? Verse 5, "Of the tribe of Judah," without the H. See, there's no such tribe. In Revelation chapter 7, verse 5, there's no such tribe of Israel that's known, even in English translation, as Juda. So what does that tell you? It tells you that it never happened today. It's not going to happen today, especially in English. Of the tribe of Judah was sealed, 12,000, already sealed. Of the tribe of Reuben was sealed, 12,000. The tribe of Gad was sealed, 12,000. Verse 6, "Of the tribe of Asher was sealed, 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali," see, there's no such son of Jacob that's named Naphtali. What is that? Naphtali. It never existed. Was sealed, 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh was sealed, 12,000. Since when did Jacob have a son named Manasseh? A son named Manasseh? It might as well say Ephraim. Verse 7, "Of the tribe of Simeon was sealed, 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi was sealed, 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar was sealed, 12,000. Verse 8, "Of the tribe of Zebulun was sealed, 12,000. Already sealed. Of the tribe of Joseph was sealed, 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin was sealed, 12,000. Don't you see something wrong with that picture? That's in the verse 8. What's wrong with that picture? Well, where is Dan? Was not Dan a son, one of the 12 sons of Jacob that I read to you at the beginning of this testimony, this video, that's found in Genesis chapter 49 and verse 1? So why is not Dan there? Because Dan sealed the names already written in the book. Confirm it in Daniel chapter 12 and verse 1. When Michael stand, I'm also known as Michael. Then you come to verse 9. "After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man can number." So it makes you think that there were 144,000, which no man can number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne. See, they stood already before the throne. The throne of who? The throne of the Christ, the throne of Yahshua, the throne of the King of Israel, and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Did you see that? It didn't say clothed in white robes. It's clothed with white robes. Have you studied the word white? No, you have not studied the word white in English. You don't realize that this white represents purity of a type of mind that they went through, of purification. Have nothing to do with wearing white robes. And it was the palms and palms of their hands. Why? Because they are human flesh. Every human flesh hand have palms in it. But you didn't know that. Why? Because it was sealed. This revelation was given to me. I'm the one to shew unto my servants these things, which must shortly come to pass. Even in verse 10, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. And if this was a literal prophecy that has to come to pass, then why is it that in verse 13 of the same chapter 7, one of the elders answered, saying unto me, What are these which are arrayed in white robes? And whence came they? Why would he ask that question? If it was Hebrew Israelites, especially an elder of Israel, he wouldn't have to ask the question. And the question is, what are these? Not who are these. What are these which are arrayed in white robes? Not who. Or did you not see that? And whence came they? Where did they come from? These are the ones that are trying to get in without coming through the door of the sheep of John chapter 10, verse 9. That's who they are. They want to climb up some other way, but they're not going to get in. No man can get to the Father but by me. Or do you not know that? Who am I? Well, as I close, go down to the same book in chapter 21. You say 144,000? Well, look at Revelation chapter 21, first, verse 2. Because Ma'ab is on his way, and all of the scientists and astrologers on this planet are now watching the city coming toward this planet.
Lobe. While many think it's just a comet, some theorizing a possible alien origin due to a few curious characteristics.
The peculiar thing about it is that it's moving along a trajectory that is very special.
Harvard physicist Avi Loeb has been tracking the object named 3I Atlas.
When it arrives closest to the sun, the Earth would be on the opposite side, and we won't be able to observe it. But that's exactly the time when it could do a maneuver to slow down and visit us. And one
A rather strange object is drifting through the cosmos. The James Webb Space Telescope has captured images that leave even top scientists puzzled. Is it a comet, an asteroid, or something far more extraordinary?
It looks like a comet. It behaves like an asteroid. Yet, in the latest images from the James Webb Space Telescope, the object appears to defy simple explanations. And that's why the debate has exploded: comet, asteroid, or could it be a spaceship? A new visitor is screaming through our cosmic neighborhood, and
you can see it you can see it for yourself on YouTube. They have it animated as a rock that spin around with a bunch of rocks following it. That's an animation playing with your mind. That rock has a big city promised in Revelation chapter 21 and verse 2. And that reads, I quote, see John again? And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. End quote. So what is it? Who is it that's coming? A rock or a city? They gave you an animation of mine. See, that's where the white comes in. I purified my disciples and showed them things which must shortly come to pass. See, their minds are pure and white, not filthy and dirty and black darkness. It's coming. It's on the way. And when you see, and look at verse 4 of the same chapter, 21, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. That must mean the last days that we're in now, there's going to be a lot of crying. Oh, my people are going to cry. They're crying right now. But when that city comes, I'll wipe away all the tears. There'll be no more crying. But you don't believe, and you're also fearful. You're doing abominable things, and you're murdering. You're whoremongers. That's verse 8. That reads, but the fearful, and the unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars, shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. End quote. That is not a rock in animation that's headed toward this planet, but other rocks around it. See, those other rocks that are around it are called spaceships. Even thousands of them, even 20,000. You can find that and confirm that in the book called the Psalms in chapter 68. And in verse 4, you will read that my ark flies in the heaven. He rideth upon the heavens by his name Yod. In verse 17, you will see where they are now animating to be rocks that are really spaceships, cherubs, UFOs, 20,000, and they're on their way from where I came from, everlasting. And then you think it's 144,000. Well, take a look at verse 16. And the city lieth foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth, as 3 football fields. That's 900 feet in diameter. Even larger than that. Up and down. And he measured the city with the reed, as you're reading, reed. 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And verse 17, and he measured the wall thereof. See here, 140 and 4 cubits. What happened to the 1,000? I repeat, 140 and 4 cubits. What happened to the 1,000? The thousands. They put you in an AI, an artificial intelligence. See, that 40 is mem, and 100 is not to be measured. It's the wall. And the 40 is the number value of mem. The 40 is the number value of mem. I'm speaking to my servants now, my disciples. See, I'm showing them what's coming. You're reading it, but you cannot because it's given to me. So I'm showing my disciples, my servants. You're welcome to see it since you're watching it on this video. I measured the wall. It's 100, but you don't know what 100 that is. And that 40 is mem. That's me. Mem. The number value of mem is 40. And 4 cubits is 18 times 4. That's cubits. 1 cubit is 18 inches times 4 is 72 inches. And that is my height, of which I stand to fulfill Daniel chapter 12, verse 1. That's 6 feet. That's 72 inches in height, according to the measure of a man. That is of the angel. And that is what I'm showing my servants today. I am that man. I am 4 cubits in height. 18 times 4, 72 inches. As I came out of the womb on the opposite of 72, which is 27, just like John. He came out October 27, I came out September 27. Together we are 72 and 72, or 27 and 27, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. Now, the question still remains the same, which is what? Are you one of the 144,000? Or do you believe? Or do you not believe? That is the question.
Must ye always rejoice and go into my holy places continually, as they that keep a feast? And must ye go with a pipe, as those that rejoice, into the mountain of the Lord, to the God of Israel? And the Lord shall make his glorious voice to be heard, and the wrath of his arm, to make a display with wrath and anger and devouring flame. He shall lighten terribly, and his wrath shall be as water and violent hail. For by the voice of the Lord the Assyrians, the Americans, shall be overcome, even by the stroke wherewith he shall smite them. And it shall happen to him from every side, that they from whom their hope of assistance was, in which he trusted, themselves shall war against him in turn with drums.
And that's all I have to say.